And thanks very much for everyone attending this morning, and a special welcome to any Artemis shareholders who are out there. I'm really under time constraints, so I'm just going to move this along quite quickly. The photograph, just to point out, this is a drill rig at our Carlo gold copper project here, just outside of Karratha. This is so close to Karratha. You know, the cappuccino you bought at the Roadhouse is still hot by the time you get to the rig. It's pretty special, actually. And the infrastructure, anyone who hasn't been to Karratha should go. It's an engine room of Australian economy. It's just a fantastic place. The hills in the background, that is where Zua Capital discovered the Andover intrusion-hosted lithium projects, now owned by Ms. Reinhardt and partners there. And, you know, we're in a highly mineralised region and really extremely underexplored. It's all been dominated by iron ore and gas and oil for so long that this is all kind of new territory. Two outstanding projects here, and like I guess any CEO, not meant to pick favourites, but like parents or grandparents, inevitably you do with your grandkids or otherwise. But anyway, I'm going to touch on two projects here, but the second one is the one that keeps me awake at 2 a.m. Karratha project, fantastic. We've got an existing resource. It's been around with this company for about 10 years, 374,000 ounces of gold, and significantly quite an interesting copper play as well, around about 60,000 tonnes of copper. Internally, we'd like to triple those numbers. There's cobalt associated. We're sort of parking the cobalt here and really focusing on how we build a serious project built around the gold and the copper. There's serious upside potential to this. We're sort of heading down the path of early development studies and test work requirements and things like that. And in addition to the main deposit, we've got 3 satellite gold projects within 2 or 3 kilometres. They're all very interesting. They all offer potential for open pittable shallow gold particularly. And we've got drilling starting in the September quarter, and I'm very mindful that there's 6 days to run in September, so watch the space for that startup. Elevated gold, we're finding elevated gold all over the place here. We see peaks of very high grade gold from time to time. We love the host rocks and the drilling, as I say. We've got a number of targets. Cassowary is another thing altogether, totally different. I've been looking at this and trying to secure it for about 5-6 years. This is in the middle of the Nullarbor Plain. It's under about 250 metres, maybe 300 max of cover. It's very out of the box. It's extremely rare opportunity. Anyway, the result is that Artemis has been able to secure 1,000 square kilometres of ground, particularly a core holding of 340 square k's, which sits right over what is, we think, a very large intrusion that deserves some serious respect. It keeps us awake at night, as I say. I'll come back to that. With Karratha, it's sort of gold geologist wish list territory. It's quite an extraordinary part of the world. We're focused very much on this east-west belt. Hopefully you can see it. Running through, Hemi dominates it, and De Grey Mining, of course. Now Northern Star, effectively 100 kilometres at the eastern end, and some 13 million plus ounces they've defined along that belt, but focused around the incredible Hemi discovery. Only in 2020, early 2020, that was announced in terms of the discovery holes. So it's all very recent work. We're at the western end of the belt. We've got about 20 kilometres of paradise here. For the wish list, for gold, you need to be near major structures. If you're going to really hit the big time, you need major disruptions to those structures. Multiple intrusions really helps, and great host rocks. We think we've got the lot in this, what we call the North Pilbara Gold Province here. I think I'll skip to the next slide there. This is a long section of Carlo deposit. This has been drilled sort of intermittently up until 2022, from probably 2017 onwards. The pale blue colour you can see is the resource outline, 8 million tonnes at 1.3 grams gold and 0.7 copper. We think there's a lot more to this, and we're pulling this apart. There's some 400 drill holes in that area. Once you step outside of that shape, there's virtually nothing undrilled. Really quite interesting here. The green dots you can see hopefully are copper values over 2% copper, and that's a good underground grade in the modern world. The purple and red colours are gold over 10 grams, up to 30 grams. A lot of high grade intersections in this project here. So we've sort of taken a big step back. The original concept was deep pit, 200 metres. That was someone else's idea. We're focused on shallow pit. What does this look like as an underground, and can we extend it? And the answer to that is I think we have real potential to extend this resource, take it to another level. The purple shape on the right-hand side is the Andover intrusion. That was always outcropping. The rig is actually the first drill hole we drill, which is the rig that's got an arrow, the hole that's got an arrow pointing to it. That was sitting on outcropping Andover intrusion, where people were looking for lithium along strike for tens of kilometres. We drilled, our geologists, great bit of work mapping, realised this is not a steep intrusion, it's just punched its way through the Earth's crust. It's actually a flat-lying sill, and we drilled through it and got straight into gold sitting in the mine sequence that we see at what we call it at Carlo, the mine sequence. We got into gold straight away beneath that. And then there was the other big breakthrough that sort of opened this project up was that hole continued, and we hit that yellow unit at the end of that hole. You might be able to see it, the hole trace, that red line. The intersection, was 7 metres, around about 3 grams of gold. But that just was enough encouragement that we're in the right sequence here. And we intersected a thing called the Regal Thrust, which is a very distinctive chert. It's been mapped and known about for 100 years, and it is throughout the North Pilbara region, and we intersected it below the Carlo sequence. So this is quite a big breakthrough for us. Where we see it outcropping in the region, it's steep dipping, it's disrupted geology, but we're quite excited as geologists. Then we went back and looked at the data, and the deepest hole ever drilled here is the second red circle. Hopefully you can see that. Sitting underneath the resource, about 180 metres below the resource. That had 4 metres, 11 grams and 2% copper. So if we were to announce that today, we'd certainly get in another hole or adjacent to that, we would expect to get some sort of spark of interest from our investors, definitely. Plan is to start drilling that upper zone first below the Andover intrusion, then move into this lower zone. And we're dealing with gold that extends over, at least 2 kilometres here. Left-hand side, Titan on the underside of that thrust for geologists in the room. We hit a sequence of rocks at a tight prospect we call Titan, where there's a very high-grade vein outcropping, never been drilled. 3 holes, all hit gold in sediments. So, we're sort of into groundbreaking times here. Titan, only 2 k's along strike from Carlo. It's a very unusual basinal sort of shape area. It's curious. The chert outcrops poke their way through, mostly covered by transported cover. We can comfortably get high-grade gold values from rock chip sampling of ferruginous, that is X-sulfide, probably pyrite or pyrrhotite, in chert outcrops. So we see here a chert breccia with a rock chip sample of that rock where that hammer is there, 51 grams, 2 ounces of gold. So this is pretty encouraging for us. No drilling at all in Titan in this area. And so our plan is to start an RC program, as I say, starting in the September quarter, running out of days on that, but we're getting there. And we're using not only surface mapping and surface gold occurrence, we're also using gravity because we think the host rock to the gold in this region is denser than the surrounding rocks. So we're using gravity quite reliably here, we think, as a targeting mechanism. So those green blobs, there's 4 of them, we call G1 through to G4. All I can say is just keep an eye on results from drilling as they come out of that. The photograph on the top right is typical of this district, flat, transported cover, steep little ridges that poke up, which are chert. And usually if there's iron in the chert, we'll find gold in that as well. So moving on to cassowary, this is the second project that we have. This has recently been consolidated by Artemis. On the left-hand side, just to put it in a context here, and I'll come back to copper on my last slide if that's okay, just a very optimistic view of the copper market and the copper price, probably outside of most people's thinking, I don't know. But anyway, so on the left-hand side map, just where we are, Kalgoorlie, on the left-hand side, rail line, if you taking the Indian Pacific, you'll go along that rail line to Sydney. And as you step out east from Kalgoorlie, there are three major cratonic boundaries that are all mineralised. There's the first, the Yilgarn Craton margin, where it is major time breaks. These are, ancient geology with youngest geology pushed up against it. Yilgarn Craton margin has the well-known Tropicana gold deposits along it. The second one, the Fraser Range, Albany Fraser Range, some investors might know it as, has a long history of nickel, copper and PG. The main deposit there being Nova Bollinger, been a mine from IGO for the last 8-10 years down the southern end, but numerous nickel, copper, and I've even explored for platinum up the northern end of that Fraser Range belt as well, and chrome. Then the third one out, this is the one we really, really like. It's got a very little known about it, to be honest. It's called the Madura Crustal Boundary. It was held by BHP Nickel West for 400 kilometres south of where we are. We're the red shapes on that map to the ocean, the Great Southern Ocean there. And it was looked at for nickel by Nickel West until Nickel West decided to pack up Kambalda and stop exploring. The ground became open. There was a pegging rush. We dived in. West Arunta, WA1, the niobium kings of Western Australia, picked up a central area in yellow on the right-hand side over magnetic features here, looking for IOCG type copper gold, as they've announced, and potentially also niobium. About 1,000 square kilometres we've tied up 1,000 kilometres to the north and to the south of that. Our thinking for geologists in the room is that we're in a very unusual setting here, major crustal boundary one side. We think we're in a 30 to 40 kilometre wide rift zone, a geological rift, fertile ground for intrusive hosted mineralisation anywhere on the planet. And we think there are multiple intrusions potentially represented on that map. The first one that Cassowary, and I should say the logo on the top right, just to show we are keeping up with the times, was designed by AI. One of our guys just put the right questions in and we came up with that weird bird. But anyway, Cassowary is big intrusion. It is very unusual. I've never seen anything quite on this scale before. It's disrupted the geology by at least 20 kilometres, and this is based purely on magnetic data. There's no outcrop, but 250, maybe 300 metres of flat-lying sediment sitting on top. So we're trying to interpret through that. We think it may represent potentially a long-lived focus for mineralisation. The Madura Fault has crustal boundaries been active for at least 1.4 billion years. So it's been around a long time. A lot of things have been going on here. And we think it may be a target for IOCG, iron oxide copper gold. And these are the big frontier type copper and gold projects globally, particularly in South Australia. So it's the home of the biggest. And our core tenement has been granted that covers the Cassowary intrusion. We like it for many reasons. It's very aggressive intrusion, we think, from the mag. We're yet to do the gravity that is the other surface geophysical thing we can do, and we're waiting a access agreement to come through, a 39-page document. The terms have been agreed. We need our partners in this to sign off on that. To give you an idea of IOCG, and down the bottom you'll find a disclaimer. We're not pretending that we have one of these. We're just saying this is the sort of model for us. Typically coincident magnetic and gravity anomalies, typically in the sort of 3 to 5 kilometre range, and typically associated with cross-cutting structures as well. Olympic Dam is the biggest in the world. Both these are BHP mines. Karapatina, another very large deposit. They sort of scale down to almost narrow pipe. There's a sort of third part of the spectrum, which I've left off, but there's a range of these. First indications of IOCG is when you drill and you find red rocks like this in your drill core, you get very excited. So we are looking for that style of deposit. The alternate to that is other intrusive related mineralisation. So this is an area where we know that the mafic rocks, the iron-rich rocks, also have copper. and nickel in them as well. So just a last slide here. You know, copper's really got a lot of issues, and you're seeing dominance coming from the big guys, BHP, Rio, and then Teck, Anglo, that recent $85 billion merger. It's a very interesting kind of metal. There's problems looming for humans, in my view, because we can't live without copper. It's in everything. There's no substitute known yet that's going to make any difference to that. And it's a little kind of bit of a flip comment here, but this is the oldest metal that's ever been explored for and mined. Actually goes back to the Bronze Age, about 3000 BCE. So surface deposits are kind of being discovered if they were there. And anyway, what this shows, this is a slide prepared for BHP that was very interesting, and we borrowed it. Thank you, BHP. What it's showing is that as we go forward in time, the big discoveries are getting deeper, and they're getting smaller and they're getting lower grade. That's what this slide is trying to show. It starts at 1900, all the porphyries up the top, the shallow porphyries, and the sediment-hosted deposits of Central Africa. We've had a wonderful run for the last, 100 years, basically. But those times are sort of changing, and so you're getting into the sort of Olympic Dam and Carrapateena are put on there just to show scale as to when they were discovered. And then right down the bottom is resolution. This is a porphyry copper moly, bit of gold in here, deposit. This is the one in Arizona that Rio and BHP have bailed up President Trump and said, we need to get this thing into production. It starts at 1.5 kilometres depth. It goes down to 2.5 kilometres depth. So this is a serious, deep underground mine. That's where the world's going for copper. We are looking in the land of 200 to sort of 400 metres in our cassowary target. That's where we'd like to be in a perfect world. So I'll just leave you with that slide and just say that I could put up a corporate slide just to give you an idea. The company has a very experienced board, fantastic geological and team with good solid background in mining. It's a market cap of around about 24 million. We raised $4.9 million 2 weeks ago, closed that out, and the share price has already gone up, doubled effectively since that placement. And we're looking at sort of really turning this company into something special. So thanks very much for your time.